Hi and welcome back to Bad Movie Takes. You know, Jaws was a huge movie at the time and has obviously influenced a bunch of movies since. But today we're not talking about Jaws. We're talking about 5 of my favorite underwater monster movies that aren't Jaws. Now what better way to start a list off of movies that aren't Jaws than a movie that has no sharks at all? This one deals with alligators. Crawl is a 2019 horror movie that's produced by Sam Raimi. It centers around Haley, who's a University of Florida swimmer who learns that a Category 5 hurricane is descending on the state of Florida. She's very concerned about her estranged father and wants to check in on him and make sure he's okay. She skips past a police roadblock to check on him at the family home, and she finds her dad unconscious in the crawl space. Now that would be a problem all by itself, but she turns around and finds that her exit has been blocked by several large alligators who have come in due to the storm. Now Haley's stuck in this house trying to help her injured father while dealing with the hurricane outside and a huge congregation of killer alligators on the inside. This turns into a terrifying cat and mouse game as Haley is navigating through the house. There are a few helpers that come along, but that doesn't go very well. She is able to use her mad swimming skills to keep herself and her father alive while waiting for the authorities to come rescue her. Now, can you even say that you lived through the 90s if you haven't seen Anaconda at least once? This movie takes the feeling of Jaws but moves it right to the Amazon rainforest and adds J-Lo, Ice Cube, Danny Trejo, Owen Wilson, and Jon Voight. The movie centers on a documentary film crew trying to find a long-lost tribe in the Amazon. They end up encountering this killer snake hunter named Paul, who works extremely hard at making the whole crew uncomfortable around him. He doesn't have to work that hard, he's just generally not a good guy. It comes out that he's working with a poacher in the area and somehow convinces them to help him track down this monster anaconda. You know anacondas, the giant snakes that wrap you up and suffocate you before eating you whole. Naturally, they end up right in the path of the snake, who's extremely grumpy about being hunted. The movie is just awesomely entertaining. I mean, it was a box office success, it has this excellent cast, it sparked a cult following with 3 other sequels behind it. The next movie surprised the heck out of me. Not because I expected it to be bad, but I just wasn't sure how the idea of one woman stuck on a rock could be entertaining for an entire movie. But I was wrong. The movie follows Nancy, a medical student who's struggling with the death of her mother and she's kind of contemplating whether she should continue medical school or not. So she decides to take a surfing trip to kind of clear her head. She ends up surfing alone in a remote beach, which is fine until she finds a whale carcass floating in the water that's attracted a monster shark. I guess the giant whale wasn't enough for the shark, and instead it decides to go after Nancy, takes a bite out of her leg, and sends her scrambling for the only refuge she has, which is this tiny rock. As luck would have it, she's not the only one taking refuge on this rock. There's also an injured seagull that she's named Steven Seagull. You get it? Yeah. That's all well and good, except oceans have tides, and this one is threatening to submerge the rock, leaving her exposed to this shark that still has a mat on for her. Like I said, this movie sucked me in. The resourcefulness of Nancy was awesome, the action, the terror, everything was just so well done. And if you're wondering, yes, Nancy was able to save Steven while also fighting the shark. Every time there's a list of shark movies or Jaws type movies, 47 Meters comes up, but it's an okay movie, it's just not like the sequel. Now 47 Meters Down is a 2017 movie in which 2 friends decide to be adventurous and go into a shark cage in a shady boat tour. Of course the cable holding the cage breaks and they end up falling 47 meters below the surface while stuck in a cage with limited oxygen surrounded by killer sharks. It's okay, it just doesn't have enough action or sharks, and really the ending was just trash. But if you're looking for shark mayhem, then 47 Meters Down Uncaged is a 2019 sequel that you definitely have to see. It centers around these 2 sisters who need some bonding time, so their dad buys them tickets to go on a glass-bottom tour to look at some great white sharks. Of course, instead of doing that, they meet up with some friends and go to a very remote lagoon to hang out and have fun. The lagoon is actually the entrance to a submerged Mayan city that's going to be explored by archaeologists soon. So these girls decide to steal the scuba equipment and go exploring the ruins by themselves. One of the girls gets startled by a fish, knocks over a pillar, which causes this collapsing chain reaction, blocking the exit and kicking up a bunch of silt. And to make matters worse, the place is just full of sharks. Not normal sharks, weirdly evolved blind sharks that use other senses to hunt. And things go bad as the body count rises. They do find some people associated to the site, but that doesn't go very well, and this just turns into one long action-packed feeding frenzy as these girls fight to try and survive and escape. I mean, to be honest, it's a sequel in name only, as they're not trapped 47 meters below, but with all the mayhem, it truly doesn't matter. This movie is number 1 on my list, and not just because it's my favorite non-Jaws movie, but it's one of my favorite low-budget monster horror movies, period. Beneath is a 2013 horror movie that follows a lot of the horror movie tropes but goes in a different direction. A stereotypical group of teens deciding to have a trip to the lake to celebrate the end of high school. I mean, you've got the jock, the nerd, the broody one, you know, you get the picture. You've also got this creepy old man that comes out to warn them about the dangers of the lake. And the broody one, Johnny, he seems to know about it but doesn't really share his thoughts to the group. Of course, they don't respect the lake, and they end up partying and being loud in it, and this giant van-sized catfish starts attacking them in their boat. Yes, I get it, it's a catfish, I get it, but trust me, this fish is out for blood. It's actually really neat because instead of using CGI, they actually modeled this catfish into this giant animatronic thing, so it just keeps it kind of on the real level and not so cheesy. So as things go bad, instead of coming together and coming up with plans, these teens just instantly turn on each other in this weird Lord of the Flies Survivor crossover, where they start debating who they should chuck over the edge so that the rest of them can get a little closer to shore.
I think we should vote.
And I mean, yeah, the movie is about a killer fish, but it quickly turns to showing how ugly these kids are and the darkness that lurks inside each of them. Seriously, this movie is awesome. How it takes the typical horror tropes and expands on them, the way it's even filmed, and just how the escalation happens. It just caught me completely off guard and sucked me in. Alright, I'm doing a bonus. It's a 1989 film called Leviathan, and it's not exactly a non-Jaws movie, but it's in the ocean and there is a shark in it for a random reason at the end, so let's just go with it. The movie follows a crew of deep-sea miners who stumble upon the wreck of a Russian Navy ship. Now, there's no record of this shipwreck, so the crew investigates naturally. Later on, members of the crew start mutating, and it's discovered that this Russian ship was experimenting with mutagens. So now the crew is stuck in this underwater sea base while dealing with this mutated monster as they try and survive. I liked this movie and just how gruesome the monster was. It might not be Jaws, but it'll make you think twice about exploring any sunken Russian vessels that you come upon. So how did you like this list? Have you seen these movies, and what's your favorite non-Jaws movie? And if you like this video, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be putting out more videos like this. Also, follow me on TikTok where I give short summaries on movies that I find interesting. Until then, thanks for watching.